everybody, and welcome to today's training and session. Today we're going to be talking about the DCAA audit process. It's going to be part 2. I know that, we wanted to allow time for everybody to share your questions with us. And, I brought this slides, but I also have second part and some additional notes that I took based on our last interaction. Can you believe that was back in December? It felt like it was just 2 months ago. But yeah, it's been 5 months. So welcome everybody. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Anmarie Moulier. I am the DCAA Financial Liaison Advisor, and I'm currently supporting Navarre. I'm stationed at Patuxent River, Maryland. Previously worked as the special programs for all the Navy commands, within the special programs and classified, SAP, and all that fun stuff. And later on, I was transitioned to support Navarre, which is, one of right now our biggest command. So I do have a lot of work, but also I have learned working with Navarre a lot of the, commonly questions that you guys get as small vendors, small business, and also, the challenges that the contract specialists and procurement contracting officers find themselves when, starting the process for negotiations and when the DCAA audit team gets involved. So with that being said, I am very pleased to have the opportunity again to be with you guys, and hopefully I can bring some insight and some knowledge and some education to all of you. And again, I'm going to be talking primarily about the DCAA audit process, but I do encourage participation. Just to give you a little bit of feedback about me, I did my master in my BA in accounting and master in finance. So I am a number person, but when I started working with DCAA, when I was little, my family used to say, "Oh, you should be a lawyer." So I think I found like that middle point where you can combine, that, passion for numbers and accounting and math and all that stuff, but also, all the regulations, which can be very convoluted, and sometimes just bring it to a more simplified language to the audience. And that's why I enjoy, presenting and sharing, educational content about DCAA services with the different commands and also with the contractors. That being said, let's jump in and let's talk a little bit about today. If you have not done so, please provide your contact information to Amber Donnelly or Miss Destiny White. As you know, you can pose your questions on the chat function. There's some, tools that are available for you to ask questions. With that being said, let's talk and jump right on it, okay? I get a lot of questions about what is the audit related, what is the audit process, what should we expect, each audit, will it be, and again, will it be big? How much information do I need? How much preparation? And the reality is, while each audit will vary to some degree, right here, I'm going to be discussing with you some of the common items that are related to the audit process and hopefully help answer some of those questions and, concerns, challenges, and sometimes there's some, the word that I'm looking for is, when you're afraid about asking for something, or when you're afraid about starting a process, So hopefully, again, there's a lot for the small business, that sometimes that we get questions about the audit process, and hopefully today I'm able to answer those questions. So let's start with, I'm going to be talking a lot today about the adequacy reviews. There's different kinds of adequacy reviews, and some of them and most of them you can find the references in the FAR regulations, Federal Acquisition Regulations. We're going to talk about the importance of communication, and that the auditor is not really your enemy. The auditor is there to be a resource to the contracting officers, to be an asset to the procurement team. And once we understand that the auditors are doing their job just as much as you're doing your job, there's no wrong answer, because there's always a way and opportunity for improvement. So we're going to be talking about the entrance conference. We're going to be talking about walkthroughs and the importance of the walkthroughs, what we call notification letter and when you should expect those, entering discussions with the audit team, exit conference, which happens at the very end of the audit process. I'm also going to talk about site visits and requests for information. These are the key elements for the audit process, and that's why I am breaking it like this, because for every audit that you get involved in, you're gonna go through these, okay? There's an adequacy review that we go through for the income submission, which is the annual audit that we, or the annual proposal that you submit to DCAA once you are, have cost reimbursable contracts, of course. There's an adequacy review for proposals. There's also an adequacy review for pre-award accounting system, pre-award. There's another adequacy review for, a full accounting system. So don't you love adequacy reviews? Don't you love checklists? So that's all of these are the key points, and I strongly believe once we finish this presentation, it should be able to help you understand the whole cycle for all audits, regardless of the type of audit that you're undergoing. But I did notice that you guys had a lot of questions about the pre-award. Coming from the small business, I can completely understand. So I am ready to interject a lot of the pre-award accounting system information for clarification purposes, and because I understand that kind of information will benefit you guys, okay? So let's jump right on to adequacy reviews. And again, at any point during this presentation, you can interrupt me, you can pose your questions, or you can also share the questions with Destiny or Amber, okay? So let's talk about the adequacy reviews. Many of the audits performed are evaluating a contractor's assertions, such as for pricing proposal, final indirect rate proposal, and those are the ones that I am talking about being submitted annually, right? And the pre-award accounting system design assertion. Okay, the work performed on the adequacy review will often lead to us opening up that communication channel with you as the vendor, as the contractor, as the small business. And once we initiate that, it might be to set up a walkthrough or an entrance conference. And I'm gonna, of course, talk about the entrance conference first to avoid confusion. But when this is the case, the audit process, again, will start beginning with DCAA assessing whether the assertion complies with the applicable regulation and is adequate for audit. Why? Because if something is wrong just from reviewing it for adequacy, another adequacy review example, the disclosure statement, it can be adequate, but it might not be compliant. So we review for adequacy, the disclosure statement, and you also have the compliance portion of it. But if it's not adequate, the review is not adequate, then this is not auditable. So it's very important for you guys to understand the adequacy review is not even an audit. It's just a list, like a checklist of items that you should have. And each of these that I have on the screen, 3 types of assignments: forward pricing proposal, final indirect rate proposal, and pre-hour accounting system design assertion. For each of these audits, there's an adequacy review. There's a checklist, and there's a FAR regulation that is going to guide you and tell you, okay, this is the forward pricing proposal. These are the FAR regulations that you should have. You should have estimates, methodology on how are you making assumptions of the future, right? Those are part of, our estimates for a forward pricing proposal. You have to explain yourself on that. And that's one of the items on the checklist. This is just real examples that I'm sharing with you. Another example from a final indirect rate proposal for incurred cost proposal is one of common mistake, and it's reoccurring, and it's the first thing we do is the incurred cost proposal verifiable, mathematically correct. So we do a math check. We reconcile the accounts. We verify that all the schedules for the income cost proposal are available, and there's a list, to verify that it's adequate and it's ready for audit. That's all it means. Okay. Any questions about this? And if you are not familiar with the pre-award accounting system survey, that's the form 1408. If you have been doing a small business with the government and you are only in the SBIR system, or in the just haven't done any cost reimbursable, and it's like small contracts, a lot of the time is in research and development. Other time it's fixed price contracts. So all of these are example of government contracts, government relationships with different vendors that are not under the umbrella of DCAA, and I'm going to explain why. DCAA focus on reviewing cost reimbursable contracts. Okay, anything that is cost reimbursable, time and material, TINA audits, and all that stuff, or any fixed price contract above the 10 million threshold. Okay, and the threshold, it's for the fixed price contract, it's only for proposals. We do not audit the fixed price contracts once they are awarded. And that's a common question that I also get. Why you don't audit the fixed price contract after they are awarded? Because whatever is on the contract, that's what you're gonna get paid. Doesn't matter if you had a loss or you had a gain, you're gonna get paid whatever is stipulated on that contract. And that's all that's gonna happen. I can audit the whole thing back and forth, and it's on the contract. So that's why we review the fixed price proposals prior to it being awarded, depending on the significant dollar magnitude of 10 million. Anything above 10 million fixed price, it's gonna, it ignites the need for an audit per FAR. Any questions about this? I might be sharing a lot of information based on questions from my prior presentation.
We did have one question, And they were curious to know if there is a contracting officer who said they reached out to DCAA for a review of their accounting system without having a cost proposal. Is that the pre-award accounting system audit?
Okay, let me see. Where's that question?
In Q&A, if you click Q&A, the box will pop up.
Oh, I see it now. Thank you. We had a contracting officer who said he reached out to DCAA to come out and review our accounting system without having a cost proposal. Yeah. So what happens is this, and that's why I was clarifying all of that. Let's talk about the cycle, about, let's put scenarios to answer this question. You're a vendor, you're a small business, and you already doing business with the government. And the government is really interested in continuing business with you. So now this magnificent project and radar technology that you are bringing to the table, they want to extend it to another program office. Therefore, now we're talking about more production, more dollars, more demand. And again, at the beginning, they were testing, they were seeing how well it goes, does this work or not? That's why I mentioned a lot of research and development and a lot of programs. But again, any questions related to procurement, those, the Navy will be able to answer better. But in this scenario that I'm sharing with you, the customer is interested in doing business with you. Therefore, there's going to be the need to award a customer reimbursable contract. And that ignites, that has the need for the pre-award accounting system audit to take place. And that is what the contracting officer or contract specialist was referring to. You do not have a customer reimbursable contract. You do not have anything, that is T&M, that is, required to be audited by DCAA, but you are about to be awarded. Therefore, there's a need to test your system and the design of your accounting system to make sure that you're ready to be awarded such contract, because the government is taking a higher risk in coming into business with you. They're interested in doing business with you. Then this is no longer a college proposal. Now you're going into another level. So we need to be ready, for audit. We need to be ready to make sure and to prove that we can have internal controls in place to test to allocate the cost, trace the cost, segregate those costs, and all those wonderful list of items that you can find in the SF 1408. And since I knew there was going to be questions about it, I do have a PDF version of the form that I can share with you guys, and I'm planning to share with you guys in about 5 minutes, okay? We have another question. We are on this IDIQ vehicle, but they want to issue cost type contracts. We have been awarded FFP contracts on this vehicle today to give additional context. So it's pretty common to see IDIQ contracts and BOAs, a bargain order, agreement, blanket order agreement, where you basically the government is saying, okay, I'm doing business with XYZ and I am ready to open this vehicle, and because it's a small vendor and all this stuff, I'm able to, because again, let's say it's the same product for a different program office, therefore we can open different delivery order, task orders under this IDIQ. That's why it's called indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity. But of course, that contract always will have some ceilings, you know? So don't think that because you already are under an IDIQ or a BOA, blanket order agreement, that gives you like a license to indefinitely get contracts with the government, because all IDIQs at some point, if you're reading the award, has a ceiling. And once you're getting up there, you know, and again, I don't want to talk a lot about funding because that's something that it's not in my roles, in my responsibilities. That's something that it's on the procurement office. And then, you know, there might be a need to, hey, now we're doing business, you are managing, you know, this amount of dollars, and you know, we need something else. A lot of contractors do not want to do cost reimbursable contracts because they think they're not ready, but in reality, um, there's more risk. I don't want to say to the contractors or to the vendors when doing fixed price contracts, because there's always risk for the government, you know. But um, look at this as an opportunity to get your things straight, get your numbers straight. If an audit is prompted, there's only room for improvement. Don't think of an audit for something, oh my God, they're gonna find something, we're gonna fail, and then they're gonna chase us. We're not the IRS. We're gonna tell you, okay, this is what's wrong, this is not compliant, and this needs to be fixed. And you will, and I'm gonna talk about the exit conference and all that stuff, you know, in a few minutes. You will have opportunity. And I know I'm giving all this whole long explanation because I know this is answering a lot of your questions, because you know I already know a little bit of my audience, you know, and in working with the contract specialists, these are the challenges that they face a lot. And you will have opportunity to adapt, overcome, make corrections, be a better business. Don't think about the CPFF contract or the cost reimbursable contract as the, you know, big, you know, I don't even know how to say it, like the boogie monster that's gonna come to your company and is gonna destroy you. And I'm being very dramatic because, you know, there's things out there that are wrong, you know, and you know, if it's not DCAA, somebody will find it. It may be an employee within your organization, might, you know, DCAA is here to be an asset to the contract specialist. There's areas that the contract specialists and the contracting officers are not experts because they are doing procurement. They are based on programs. We are based on contractor sides. Our expertise is in the accounting area, your controls, areas of concern. So there's different roles, okay? So always look at the audit as an opportunity for improvement. Where could I submit my innovative projects, ideas related to US Navy and Space Force? I have registered my entity with SAM.gov. Regards, Baljit Singh, Coast Force Technology in India. There's so many innovative projects that the small business is looking into. There is a big competition in the field, and you are in the right place. The small business for the Navy, small business for the Air Force. These divisions, like within the Navy, within the Air Force, Marine Corps, each government, military office has small business, and they are specifically dedicated to consider small business, look at the new technology, innovations. There's small business presentations, small business conferences like throughout the year. Last year, I participated at the one for NACSI, and I went to the Navy. It's in Washington, D.C. And there was so many vendors with, wow, magnificent ideas. And again, there's going to be opportunities. Just be alert for those, platforms that are available for the small business. Okay. Hi, just to confirm, Anonymous, there's no way to get on DCAA audit until you win a CPFF contract. Having FFP contracts is not enough to get DCAA certified, correct? There's no such thing as DCAA certified. So the award for the contract might trigger the pre-award accounting system, but in reality, a pre-award is not an audit, just so you know. As a new auditor, I could do a pre-award survey in 45 to 60 days. That's the average, like a regular auditor. With my expertise, I can do a pre-award survey in less than 30 days. But that's me because I deliver expertise that I have with, I know what to do, I know what I'm looking for, But each auditor is going to be based by contractor. In small business, we have the regional offices, and you're going to be assigned to the closest audit office to your location, and they're the ones who are going to be coming to your side. Thank you. No open questions, so I'm going to continue. It's 1:27. I'm going to talk about the entrance conference. Thanks. How can I get a NICRA? NICRA. I don't know what NICRA is. But I'm going to tell you this in answer to answering the previous question. If you're only doing FFPs and the contract specialist said something is not right, this contractor, this vendor keeps exceeding the limitations. This contractor is always late in the deliverables, and listen closely to what I'm saying. Oh my goodness, the TPOC, technical point of contact, is continuously telling me that this vendor is not able to monitor. They're not submitting their monthly reports for the invoices to the core contracting officer representative. So the contracting officer representative, the TPOC, technical point of contact for the contracting officer, contract specialist, contracting officer, any of them can, raise a flag and say, something is wrong. Let's check who's the closest DCAA audit. And because the DCAA, a pre-award survey is not an audit, is a review. Is a review of your system to make sure that you're good to be awarded, government customer reimbursable contracts. Therefore, don't think that you're going to be excluded of the audit just because you're not willing to go into customer reimbursable contracts. That's a big mistake that a lot of vendors do. And then you find yourself in a situation where the vendor, the contracting officer needs a customer reimbursable contract because otherwise they're not going to get the funds for it. They're talking business, and you're going to just step back and not go into business with the government because you don't have a design. Oh my goodness, I can give you so many examples about that, but it's 1:30. Negotiated indirect cost rate agreement. Okay. Negotiated indirect cost rate agreement. Negotiated is something that you just of the word negotiate comes from a table with there was a question that I missed from somebody. I'm gonna check. Let me see. I'll get to you, Danielle Mireles. But I just wanted to say, a negotiated indirect cost agreement, just speaking off the bat, negotiated means that you're gonna be in the table discussing business with the contract specialist and the contracting officer and probably the program manager. And you might have the Navy prize fighters, cost analysts, and all that stuff. And so it's not only DCAA, they have their own cost analyst teams too. And they're the ones who work on that. So there's a difference between negotiating indirect rate agreement and the indirect rate agreement that you go into with DCMA, Defense Contract Management Agency, versus DCAA, Defense Contract Audit Agency. The management agency is helping the contracting officers with all the administration of the contract, because there's so many portfolio of contracts. So their responsibilities are different than the ones DCAA has and the ones the PCO has. In some instances, you might see that the PCO opts to retain the administration of the contract, but with so many contracts in the Navy, in Navarre especially, that I support 100% Navarre and all the remote location for Navarre, it's hard for the procurement contracting officer not to give DCMA the responsibility of administrating those. And DCMA is gonna roll over with the responsibility of overlooking that after DCAA reviews the indirect rates, they are going to check that they are okay, that they are, consistent across the board with all the proposals that you have, and any it's some sort of financial capability and desk review that they perform. Again, very different than one we review. Okay. Now, hopefully that answers your question about the negotiating indirect rates. I have a question from Danielle Mireles. Can certified cost and pricing be required by contracting officer on a contract mod RFP if certified cost and pricing data was not a requirement on the original contract? Yes, if the threshold is exceeded. The threshold for fixed price contract for certified cost and pricing data is 2 million. So anything above the 2 million, it's a requirement by far to have certified cost and pricing data. Okay, so if it's an IDIQ and they know already they're gonna exceed the 2 million because they are planning on doing business with you, I don't know, 5 years or 10 years, whatever the IDIQ stipulates. I've seen crazy IDIQs out there, but that's another story. The contracting officer will know if you're exceeding that threshold, and it is their responsibility to make sure that you are submitting certified cost and pricing data. Okay, 10 million for CPFF, 2 million for fixed price contracts. And remember, that's the requirement threshold for certified cost and pricing data. Threshold for audit. An audit on fixed price contract, a proposal is 10 million. Okay, clarification. Requirement for certified cost and pricing data, 2 million. Fixed price contract. Requirement for the audit, 10 million. Okay, two different numbers for two different things. Is that it? Okay. Now,
Hold on 1 second.
hello, I'm back. I don't know what happened. Window. Okay. I missed the last question. Let me see the Q&A. I have 0, so I missed I'm gonna go to the chat. But let me talk a little bit about the entrance conference. I lost all the chat. Is everybody here?
Yes, the question
43.
that was in the Q&A was asking if the Department of Navy recommended that we get a third-part audit of a Navy grant that we manage and then turn in the results to DCAA. How does that work?
Third-party audit. It's common to see third-party audits nowadays because government, it's you know, extending, you know, resources, and sometimes I'll tell you that I'd rather have a DCAA audit than a third-party audit. That's all I'm gonna say. But the result of that third-party audit is gonna come to DCAA as if it was our own. Okay, and we have in our offices, once as an auditor, I have conditions over XYZ vendor, because I already did a pre-award with them. Once that first audit or first engagement, even if it's not an audit, it's a rate verification for a proposal. Again, that's not an audit, but it's an it's not an engagement, because engagement will include gagas, but it's non-audit services that we provide. We have permanent files, and we're going to say, okay, now I have a new contractor, XYZ vendor, and this is what we did. And we have a permanent file, you know, in a cloud, of course. But each office has, like, I cannot access the cloud for XYZ vendor in Pax River, although I used to work there. I cannot access the permanent files for the vendors in Reston, Virginia, where I used to work, or in Gainesville, or in DC, because each office has its own cloud. And trust me, the amount of controls the DCAA computers have, it's insane. We can't do nothing on the government computer. It's an auditor computer, okay? So the information is, like, we're highly trained to handle all the information. But I will tell you that once we receive the audit report, you know, we treat it as if it's our own. But you know, why I say I'd rather have a DCAA do the audit than a third party, because usually third parties are more scrutinized a little bit more, because it's a third party, and then they're being, you know, paid. Like, we don't get paid. We get paid as auditors, but it's not an individual contract. You see what I'm saying? We're under the DOD, and we're independent for all the DOD agencies, okay? Therefore, anything DOD, we audit. We don't need to reimburse, is the word. Versus third party needs to be a reimbursable funds. They need to reimburse the party for their services. Does that make sense? So they're a little bit more, not rigid, but more detailed, I would say. Next question, and I'm gonna jump to, hold on. How do we get DCAA to do the audit versus the third party? Well, in reality, if There's no need for the customer to request a third-party audit unless there's no auditors available to do the audit, or it's something so demanding that they need to do it, like it's a huge proposal and they need it done by June 30, and you haven't submitted the proposal and they want to like, hey, I want this audit to be done in 45 days, which it's not going to happen. Uh, there's, usually a proposal audit will take from 60 days average to 90 days. Okay, that's the average. So it's not something that you can say. I mean, you can ask, why is a third party being involved instead of DCAA? There's nothing wrong with asking that question. That's my best advice. Okay, so let me talk a little bit about the entrance conference, and I'm sorry that I lost all of your chat, and I only have the last two questions, but I do have it open just in case you guys feel free. I just want to talk about the entrance conference. And I'm not going to be too technical. I'm just going to go back here. Communication. Why? I want to talk about this. Communication is very important. If you're too busy as the CEO of your company, delegate that responsibility to your accounting person, appoint a compliance person, somebody who you know that is going to be, well knowledgeable about anything accounting. And I am saying this when it's a small company, the bookkeeper might be your best bet, because that's the person who's going to know and understand the auditor's language. And if you don't understand each other, that it's going to be a barrier, because they might be asking for something for book. Oh, provide me with your labor distribution report, and you might be like, I don't know what that is. Well, I have the general ledger and I have my timesheets. You see what I'm saying? You might be using a accounting system that it's not as prepared to have many contracts, and is not able to generate certain reports. But I will tell you, don't be afraid to invest in a good accounting system. If you're going to start your business, start with the right foot. And why I say this, because it's a common mistake. You're not you're coming with these great ideas, and wow, my mind is blown away with the magnificent, wow, so many ideas, technology, new advancements in the projects that are presented by the small vendors. And there's so much effort behind it, and then you're not ready to do business. Always be one step ahead. Invest in your accounting system. We have a setup that works for you. It's a good investment that you're not gonna regret. But of course, you're not gonna go with a Deltec version 12.6 because you might not need, something like that. I'm just saying Deltec because it's common, but there's some of them there's some accounting programs that are better than Deltec, but whatever you choose, do your research and find a platform that fits your company's needs and that can keep up with your growth. If you're targeting to be in the same level of growth and sales over the next 5 years, then keep what you have. But if you are looking to, in the next 5 years, duplicate, your portfolio of contracts in business with the government, you know what? It's worth to invest in a good accounting system, because let me tell you the truth. I've been into places with this super smart engineer, and it's a small business, of course. There's only 5 people in the company, so I completely understand. He's tracing his timesheet with Excel. And again, he was doing great, but there's no way to trace those costs. There's no way to know, and there's controls to avoid fraud, to have a proper management, because even if it's 5, one of them is the employee who's charging, right? The other one is to be the one who reviews the timesheet, and the next one is the one who approves it, or at least as a minimum you need to have one supervisor. And these are the things that an electronic system, and with this now with the new virtual environment that we are living currently, of course we want to make sure that you're up to speed with the competition. You don't want to be the one losing a contract just because you don't have a good design. And I'm telling you, never be afraid of a pre-award accounting system. Never. That's the best advice that you can walk out today. Never be afraid of pre-award accounting system, because it's not even a full-blown audit. An accounting system review minimum takes 6 months, just so you know. 6 months. And those might be performed every 3 years. A pre-award takes place. It's not a full audit. Again, average 60 days. And sometimes there's no need for a full audit, accounting audit, because you're a small vendor. So that's what I can tell you. Communication is very important. Communication in your company. Communication with the auditor. The auditor will come to you during the entrance conference. And again, I don't want to be too technical, so I only have 12 minutes left. So I'm just gonna share that the estimated duration of audit discussed at the entrance conference will be better defined in the notification letters, because during the entrance conference, we're gonna meet with you. We're gonna talk to you about the audit. We're gonna talk to you about the scope. We're gonna talk to you about what you should expect. If this is your first audit, we're gonna get to know you better. We're gonna talk about fraud. We're gonna talk about the management. We're gonna talk about the history. We're gonna request your policies and procedures. If you don't have a policy and procedures, you should have bylaws. Something you should have where you have meeting notes, meeting minutes. There must be something that you are keeping records of your company. I mean, you're doing business with the government. You're not just coming in, empty-handed, with no preparation, right? And these are the things that we discussed during the entrance conference. Next, the walkthroughs. The walkthroughs, it's a meeting that goes beyond the entrance conference, a meeting of understanding. I want to understand as an auditor, what are you thinking when you put these estimates together for this forward pricing proposal? Remember, forward pricing proposal, it's when you're proposing your rates for the future years, for the next 3 years, for the next 5 years, and you're basing your estimates in some methodologies, your history. Remember, and I might ask you, okay, how do you came up with putting all these job and all these accounts in place in your accounting system? And again, pre-award is not a full-blown audit. It's just a review to make sure that, oh yeah, you have this in place, you have this in place, and I verify that you have everything aligned, that you have proper controls, that you have your books and records. It's not a full-blown audit, therefore it's not going to be testing. We're just going to verify and validate that the design is adequate and it's appropriate to be awarded a customizable contract. Okay, and the walkthroughs is the perfect timing to discuss and get an understanding of what are you doing, how do you put this together, and for you to also ask questions to the auditor if you have questions about the process. Sometimes if it's a small audit for a pre-award, I might combine the entrance conference with the walkthrough, okay, because it's such a small audit that I don't need so many questions, so I might combine those two. Notification letter. After I am done with the risk, with the analysis, I document everything that we discussed during the entrance conference. I send you questions, you send me the response back. I send you another request for information. You send me, the documents and the evidence for it. And okay, XYZ has, this chart of accounts and this is approved and I have this. After I finish all the risk assessment, then I issue a notification letter. Hey, XYZ CEO, we are notifying you that we have started this audit and we should expect to have this audit ready by July 8th. I'm targeting 60 days or 2 months from today. Okay, DCAA is required to send a notification letter to the contractor in communicating, and it is important that the audit was requested or planned, because there's audits are requested by the customers, such as the pre-award, but there's other audits that are initiated by DCAA, okay? But again, we do not initiate audits on contractors that only have fixed price contracts unless requested by the customer. We're gonna tell you, okay, this is the type of audit that we're doing. This is the audit assignment number, and any question, we're gonna talk about this number. It's gonna be telling you, any reference that you need or questions, just ask for this number so you can trace and track, your audit. We're going to talk about the audit objective, the compliance, the scope. We're going to talk about the management responsibility. We're going to talk about the auditor's responsibility. And I'm going to tell you as an auditor what you should expect and when. So I'm going to talk to you about those timelines. And that is in the notification letter, usually after the auditor has finished the interest conference and walkthrough and risk assessment. Interim discussions, and I have 7 minutes left. Interim discussions are continuous communication that you're going to have with the auditor. Keep that open channel, okay? And doing testing, if it's a, real audit taking place during the pre-award, they might just, ask you for additional, input, clarification. Again, anything that comes up during the review, you're going to get a question and you're going to have opportunity to answer. We're not going to report on something that we didn't discuss, basically. But if we find certain errors and we questions cause, of course, we're going to report, okay, you overbill this, you underbill that, you're not compliant with, these requirements, anything, you're going to have an opportunity, especially during the exit conference, because the exit conference is when we meet with you as a contractor, any contractor representative, and upon completion of the field work, each separate assignment, the auditor will hold this meeting with the vendor, with XYZ vendor, and the designated representative that you have appointed to discuss any results, any questions, obtain any views from the vendor concerning the findings, any conclusions that the auditor have gotten to, and any recommendations for inclusion in the audit report as required by guidance. So we usually have a draft report. You do not receive a report copy from the auditor. The auditor provides the audit report to the customer, to the contracting officer, and the contracting officers are the ones who have the responsibility to disseminate those copies of the reports to the contractors, to the vendors, okay? But again, the exit conference, you are gonna have the opportunity to discuss the audit results, the report, the findings, the issues with no compliances, any question costs, or any cost that you underbill and the government owe you, that might be an adjustment as well. So anything is possible, but the exit conference, and you're gonna have an opportunity to provide a response if there's things that you couldn't address during the exit conference. You're gonna have certain amount of days to provide a written response if preferred, and your response is going to be included as an attachment or appendix to the audit report, okay? And I already talked about site visits within all the discussions that we had today, so I'm not going to be, jumping into that, but I do want to mention about request for information. I was meant during this little discussion that we're having, I was telling you that you're going to have, during the interim discussion, the auditor is going to tell you, I need this, please provide that for this step. How can you satisfy, these requirements? This disclosure statement says this, but you're doing something different. Why is that? All the requests for information, depending on the contractor, we usually give 2, 3, or 5 business days. The decision about the turnaround, it's between the auditor, determination based on customer requests or how fast the customer needs, and if the auditor needs to move faster because negotiations are taking place, or how complex the audit is, or how difficult it might be for you to get a complete response and put it together. So I would say an average of 3 business days is reasonable. I mentioned this because I get this question a lot, and it's a pretty common question. And it's kind of like normal. So it can be 2 days. There's some things that the auditor might tell you, hey, I need this because it's something that you reasonably, you should have it readily available, okay? With that being said, I'm gonna go back to questions on the, let me go back to the chat. No open questions. Okay, I have 2 minutes left. Anybody has any questions or comments? Maybe not, no, nothing on the chat. Okay, if there's no question, no comments, I'm gonna continue a little bit here. Okay. Somebody asked about the negotiated indirect rate agreement. When you submit a forward pricing proposal, you are negotiating that those indirect rates are good to be used for bidding purposes, versus when you submit an incurred cost proposal, means everything that you incurred in your whole portfolio of contract for the previous year that ended in December 31st of 2023 and is due on June 30. For those of you who close books on December 31st. And those indirect rates that are established at the end of the incurred cost audit, those are final indirect rates. And that's the difference between negotiated. The negotiated rates are the ones that have a lot of methodology estimates for the future. The income cost rates are the ones that are final, and the ones that you are going to submit vouchers for reimbursement or to pay the government if you overbill or underbill. It is 2 p.m. and we have a hard stop right now. We have 36 participants. I just want to thank you, each of you. I know I had a lot of questions, so I tried to share the most important information based on the questions that you guys had. Hopefully you find this presentation and this seminar productive and useful. I'm here and I'm just gonna adjourn this meeting for now for those of you who need to leave, but I'll be here with Destiny and Amber for a couple more minutes. Okay, thank you so much.